Take a look at this. These are previously unseen documents recovered from the Gaza Strip that Hamas never wanted the public to see because they show how they have direct contact with Al Jazeera, not only coordinating but pretty much controlling what Al Jazeera reported about Gaza. This document, for example, from Hamas's own Al-Qassam military wing, written by the Psychological Operations Department in 2023, shows a list of requirements for Al Jazeera on how to cover a few stories, but most importantly, the establishment of a secured Al Jazeera phone line between Hamas's emergency war room and Al Jazeera's management offices in Doha. This way, every time something happens in Gaza, Hamas can directly call Al Jazeera to control how they cover it. For example, this document from 2022 instructing Al Jazeera on how to cover the news of a number of failed Palestinian Islamic Jihad rockets that fell on Gazan civilians in Jabalia, killing many of them. In their notes to Al Jazeera's writers, they describe what happened: a large percentage of failed launches. The missiles fell on the heart of population centers in the Gaza Strip, resulting in martyrs and wounded. And then they follow with instructions on how to cover the story. The writers were stressed the need to reduce the use of loaded words such as massacres and similar words, and to demand that resistance raises the bar since the bloody events were not caused by the occupation's raids. It also pledges not to allow any of the guests to insult the Qassam brigades. In other words, reduce how you talk about the incidents and don't talk bad about our military wing. Al Jazeera's influence is crucial to the political and social stabilization of the Middle East. And as we've seen lately, the West as well. I mean, they're everywhere. Every time anything moves in the Middle East, Al Jazeera has already covered it in one of their many platforms, from news channels in multiple languages, Instagram, X, TikTok, websites, affiliated interviews, and podcasts. They are the single most influential news network when it comes to the Middle East, controlled by none other than Qatar's ruling family. They pride themselves in their slogan, the opinion and the other opinion, hinting at the fact that they are unbiased and show their audiences both sides of every story, but analysis of their content, use of terminology, and editorials show that this couldn't be further from the truth. They are unequivocally biased towards radical Islam, or specifically Sunni Islam, including the terrorist group Hamas. After all, the terrorist group's leadership has been residing in Doha for years, under the protection of Qatar's ruling family, the same ones who own Al Jazeera. The most obvious first hint to Al Jazeera's alignment with Hamas is their use of Hamas's terminology verbatim. Not only Hamas, but any other Palestinian terrorist groups. Like, for example, Mujahideen, meaning jihad fighter, or Mukawamin, meaning resistance fighters, when they describe terrorists. After this, they use shaheeds, meaning martyrs to sanctify death, and Amalia, meaning operations for Hamas's terrorist attacks. For the IDF, on the other hand, they use occupation army and occupation soldiers, and Adwan, meaning aggression instead of operation, to every IDF action, regardless if Hamas is the one that initiated the aggression. And we are seeing the use of these words now being parroted by youth in the US and Europe, demonstrating the reach of influence that Qatar's ruling family has on the West. This was demonstrated masterfully on October 7th of 2023. Al Jazeera, unlike any other news channel in the world, was providing direct live reports from the ground. They broadcasted footage from Hamas's infiltration and attacks inside Israeli kibbutzim and on the IDF bases, with their own correspondents on the ground inside of Israel. For example, Ismail Abu Ammar, who joined Hamas's radio station in 2008, is an Al Jazeera correspondent in Gaza. He was covering Hamas's massacre from the moment it began, meaning that he got an early notification of the timing of the attack to be able to cover it in real time to implement Hamas's propaganda strategy. He was there in Nil Oz, showing on the ground what was going on. And if there's any doubt, he appears in Hamas's own documents, showing a list of terrorists of the East Khan Yunis battalion. And there he is, number 139, listed as a platoon commander. But Ismail is not the only one. Anas Sharif, another prominent Al Jazeera correspondent in Gaza that always had impossible access to key broadcast moments, like escorting Hamas's terrorists during the transfer of Israeli hostage Agam, Belgam, or the release of the 3 female hostages, which are locations that are highly secretive to Hamas. He also appears in a list of operatives of the East Jabalia battalion as a squad leader. He was also a Nukhba operative, and his name appears in a document of Hamas operatives wounded during 2023 and a Nukhba phone book. Talal al-Ruki, a field reporter for the Al Jazeera Mukasher network in the Gaza Strip, also appears in the list of Hamas operatives as a squad commander with the rank of captain, as well as a list of 2019 Shaheeds, documents of Hamas's ministry under Hamas-affiliated wounded. Hussam Shabat, another Al Jazeera Mubashir correspondent, also appears in a list of Hamas operatives of the Beit Hanun battalion as a sniper. Muhammad Wisha, another Al Jazeera field reporter who's a Hamas terrorist on the side, as shown by these pictures of him with a drone and anti-tank training found on his computer. Abdallah Al-Jamal, another correspondent for Al Jazeera who appeared in Al Jazeera's webpage as a Gaza-based reporter. You've probably seen him before because he held in his home 3 Israeli hostages who were rescued in June of 2024. Al Jazeera denied their affiliation with Abdallah even though he was in the webpage and he wrote for them while he was holding Israeli hostages. And the list of journalists who are Hamas terrorists goes on and on, because Al Jazeera is there to cover up for Hamas and not to report on the reality on the ground. And the people of Gaza tend to remind us of that by showing their frustration in the Qatari network. During this live report, for example, the second this Gazan resident started talking against Qatar, the reporter physically pushed him and silenced him. Exactly the same thing here. The second the Gaza started saying that Hamas hides among the people and inside their houses, the reporter cut him off and moved on. In one street report, an angry Gazan came and yelled his frustration at Al Jazeera being a cover-up for Hamas's failures to the people of Gaza. During the Gaza mass protests in April of 2024, they shouted for Al Jazeera to leave them alone.
كما تشاهدون الناس عامة الناس تسأل عن أنس شريف مراسل قناة الجزيرة عامة الشعب لا يريد قناة الجزيرة.
Al Jazeera chose not to cover the protests as the Gazans frustrated Hamas, but as the Gazans frustrated at Israel, changing what the actual people were risking their lives to say.
ها هو أحد المواطنين يقول أن الصحافة قناة الجزيرة لقد دخلت المستشفى لعدم تغطية الحدث.
Because Al Jazeera doesn't really care about the truth or the Gazans, but just to support Hamas and manipulate their public image to the world. How much has this direct connection affected the war in Gaza, the public opinion of the world, political decisions? Because Qatar's influence over the West is not only through Al Jazeera, but also through the billions of dollars it pumps into higher education in Europe and North America, and to the Muslim Brotherhood, who also have as one of their main goals the destruction of the Jewish state through different types of influence. I hope this helps you see beyond Al Jazeera's doctored messages. I'm Isal Chai.